Hello, church. I just thought I'd take a few minutes, give you some introductory thoughts to our Bible study that's happening Wednesday night on Zoom. And if you haven't had a chance to check that out, I'd love for you to take some time and join us. We're going to be in 1 Peter chapter 3. We're actually going to be finishing up 1 Peter chapter 3 on Wednesday evening. And it's an interesting passage, and I think it's a good passage for us. I say that probably way more than I should, right? But I do. I think it's a great passage for us. So in 1 Peter chapter 3, we're going to take a look at verses 10 through to 22, so through the end of the chapter. And he starts off by quoting a psalm, and I think the key part of that psalm, it's in verse 11, that says we must seek peace and pursue it. It says, "The one who desires life to love and see good days must keep his tongue from evil and his lips from speaking deceit. He must turn away from evil and do good. He must seek peace and pursue it." So I want to just back up here and remind you that, again, he is talking to people that feel like they're strangers and aliens in their land. He is talking to a group of people that is facing persecution. And he just got done talking to them about how they need to have an attitude of submissiveness. And he says, then he goes on to then challenge, he's building on top of that, and he's saying, if you want to be one who sees good days, then you need to seek peace and pursue it. We need to submit and surrender ourselves to one another. That's difficult for us to wrap our minds around, especially when we feel out of place and out of sorts and like we're being persecuted. But still, we need to find a way to submit. And then in the midst of that uneasiness, we need to find a way to seek peace and pursue it. So not just find it, but then actually act upon it. When I think of seeking and pursuing, then we are an active part of that peace. We're an active part of seeing peace and cultivating peace in our world. So he's saying, even though you're uneasy, even though you're facing persecution, do everything you can to look for peace and bring about peace in your world. And so we're seeking peace, we're looking for peace, and then he goes on in this passage to say that we should set Christ apart in our hearts. The exact word he uses in verse 15 is sanctify Christ as Lord in our hearts. We should not fear, we shouldn't be intimidated, we shouldn't be troubled during these times. Again, that's interesting comment to make to a group of people that are probably feeling very fearful and that are probably feeling very intimidated by the people that are in authority over them. But he says, don't fear and don't be intimidated. What you need to do is set Christ apart, sanctify Christ as Lord in your hearts. Recognize that Jesus is Lord, not these people and not this situation, but that Jesus is Lord, and seek peace and pursue it. And then you need to always be ready to make a defense to everyone who asks you to give an account for the hope that is in you. So what he's saying is, if you can do this, if you seek peace, if you pursue peace, if you set Christ as separate in your hearts, if you set him up as Lord in your life, then people are going to take notice, because while everybody else is living in fear, while everybody else is living in intimidation, while everybody else is seeking evil, while everybody else is angry and frustrated and tired and exhausted, you'll be walking around with a hope that nobody else has. You'll be walking around with a peace that nobody else has. So people are going to come to you and say, what is it with you? How can you have this kind of hope? How can you have this kind of peace? How can you not be afraid right now? So be ready to give a reason for the hope that is within you. Be ready to tell people it's because of Jesus, right? It's because of this hope that I have in God. So we seek peace when no one else is, and everybody takes notice, and then we get to give them the reason or the source of our peace. Good stuff here from Peter. And then he goes on and he finishes this chapter up by saying that it's good for us to suffer for what is right, rather than to suffer for doing what is wrong. So we always need to do it. And in seeking peace and in surrendering ourselves to God and sanctifying him as Lord of our heart, of our life, there may be times where we suffer, where we feel out of place and uneasy. And Peter says that's okay. Be blessed in that, because it could be God's will for you to suffer in doing what is right, and be blessed in that. So it's a great stuff. There's some good stuff in this chapter. And we're going to talk about it some more on Wednesday. So I hope to see you there, 7 o'clock. Let us know if you need the link and we can send that to you. God bless you all. Have a great day.